Ghost Cult Magazine welcomes in Chris 51 of Headbangers Con and the world famous tattoo artist. How are we doing, Chris?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure, man. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. Super stoked to talk to you in general because I've followed you for quite a while and I'm a huge fan and supporter of Headbangers Con, which is coming back this weekend as a virtual fest. I know it presented many challenges
Yeah.
and right before we get into that, obviously, I want to dispense with the obvious. I sincerely hope you're well, your family, your friends, your crew, everybody's okay. And, I know it's been a very stressful and difficult time in the whole related industries. The tattoo industry and the convention industry has been brutalized, and tattooing is a thing where you really need to be person to person, of course. So there's no virtual tattooing. And so, I just hope you guys are okay and well, all things considering.
I appreciate that, man. And yeah, everything's going great here. And thank you for that sentiment. And I hope you're doing well also.
Hanging in, hanging in. The associated Ghost Cult Worldwide family is good.
Nice.
We are a worldwide website. We started actually as a zine in Europe, and I took it over in the first year. But yeah, we are all over the place. So my concern is on all my people too. So thank you as well.
Yeah.
So let's talk for a second about the genesis of Headbangers Con, because it is the world's first and only convention for metalheads, and that is just right off the bat. That is so awesome. As soon as I heard about it a while back, I had to get on board and support and help in any way possible. We definitely have shared the news in the past cons, and one of my staff has worked at the con and is close with Riggs, of course, the mighty and great Derek Riggs, who has been a guest and has done the logo for you guys and all kinds of crazy stuff. But let me hear about how you helped create this thing, because I think it's really interesting, and I think the fans would like to hear about the story.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Yeah. It's definitely something different. And it was, believe it or not, it was actually my wife's idea, which I'm sure she regrets now because I don't really see her much anymore because I'm always doing this. But yeah, I tattoo I tattoo a lot of people at Comic Cons and stuff like that. And we were actually filming a pilot for a new TV show I was working on at the time, like a geeky pop culture tattoo show, kind of like my old one, but touring at Comic Cons. And we ended up tattooing, a lot of celebrities, the whole crew of us, celebrities and rock stars and stuff like that. And one of my buddies is tattoo artist from Morgan Rose from Sevendust. And he's like, hey, do you want me to bring him to the con and put him on the TV show pilot for some star power? And this, I'm like, hell yeah, more than that. I want him to tattoo me on the show. I'm a huge Sevendust fan. And so Morgan actually ended up tattooing his autograph and his alien little logo on me for this episode. And it was a really fun weekend and great and everything. Well, we get on the plane to fly home, and my wife's like, did you see how Morgan loved like the whole Comic-Con atmosphere? And I'm like, yeah, he really did. Stormtroopers walking around, and she's like, because I also tattoo Charlie Benante from Anthrax, and I've tattooed him actually at several Comic-Cons. He meets me at them, and I tattoo Simpsons on him and stuff. And she's like, and she remembered that, and she's like, between how Charlie loves it and how Morgan loves it, she's like, and how big of a heavy metal fan you are, why don't you do like a Comic-Con for heavy metal? And I'm like, and a light bulb just went off. I'm like, that is a fucking brilliant idea. I'm like, that's never been done, I don't think. And I researched all over the world, and little things had been done here and there where people might have had a guest signing or as part of a horror convention or this kind of thing or that thing, but nothing strictly heavy metal had been done before. So that even inspired me more to just be like, this hasn't been done. And I didn't want to do it to be the first. I wanted to do it because I was appalled that it hadn't fucking been done. I'm like, us metalheads need this. So I don't care if it's been done or not. It's just got to happen. So that was the inspiration. It was my wife's idea. And I landed, I called Morgan that day. I had just met Morgan that weekend, and we literally, the first time we met each other, because we've been talking online and stuff, we hugged and we were just like brothers. And there was something about this connection, and we talk every day since. He's my best friend. He's one of my best friends in the world. So I called him when I landed. I was like, I got this idea, bro. What do you think? I want to get you involved. As a minority owner, what do you think? He's like, dude, I'm fucking all about it. That's amazing. And I've had his support and help since day one, and it's been pretty special for sure.
That's amazing. Your wife is a brilliant genius. Shout out to your
Yeah.
wife. And Morgan is one of the best dudes I have ever met, and not just because I'm a massive Sevendust fan from way back, and not just because he's a huge New York Yankees fan like me, but he is a wonderful dude and quite a great entrepreneur with Alienware and now this. So awesome, awesome backstory, man. And
Oh, he is a wonderful guy, and that's the funny thing is I don't even Morgan doesn't even have to reach out to anybody. I simply like I get on Instagram and I message, Chris Motionless, or I message this guy or that guy who I've never met, Phil Demmel, Gary Holt. I message these guys, and now it's a little different because Headbangers has feet. It has traction. But when it first started, when I messaged these guys, I mean, Randy from Lamb of God, I mean, I was intimidated as hell to reach out to that guy. But as soon as I say Morgan Rose and I have this convention, all I got to do is throw out his name. He doesn't even need to talk to these guys. Everyone loves Morgan so fucking much. They have that same sentiment that you do. They all love him so much that once they realize, oh, he's involved, all right, I'm going to actually listen to what this guy has to say because I love Morgan and I trust Morgan. So it's as simple as that. Morgan doesn't have to do shit, honestly.
right on. And I love that original DIY approach you had and just the fearlessness of reaching out to people and pitching them a thing. Because it's not easy. You're a professional, you have a shop, you have your own whole career thing. And it's difficult to collaborate and approach people. Sometimes it's got to be through lawyers. It's so cool to hear that the mostly rock and metal people are still very down to earth and you can just kind of pitch them individually.
Dude, it's so true. And that's what I did. I literally went on Instagram and I sent out 300 messages over a one to 2 month stretch, as many as Instagram would let me duplicate, until they shut me down. I sent out 300 messages, and guys like Aaron Patrick from All That Remains and Tempesta, and these awesome guys, Eddie Ojeda, these guys I had at my first one, Brian Fair from Shadows Fall, and Ryan McCombs, and these are the guys that answered right away, and we just hit it off, and they kind of felt the same vision that I felt, that like, wow, this could be something cool, and metal does need this, and they were supportive from the beginning. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. It is do it yourself, but I think when you have the passion for something like this, it doesn't feel like you're doing a lot of work. It just feels like you're just living your passion and you're just following metal. I'd be sitting here listening to it and jamming it anyways, so why not get a little more involved?
Killer, man. And thank you so much for going to that extra length and coming up with something, you and your wife coming up with the idea, and for Morgan getting on board and doing something for the community, because we are, I don't want to say marginalized. Metal is still one of the most popular genres there is. Spotify always, and I think Consequence of Sound just did another article in their annual spate of articles about how actually underrated and popular metal is and how loyal metal fans are. But it's so cool for something like this. And I'm a big convention guy. We cover Comic Con at Ghost Cult, and we have actually participated. You mentioned horror conventions that have had tattoos or metalheads, but we actually participated in Spooky Empire Con down in Florida, where we were panelists, and that was like a big thing with a whole tattoo lane, and Phil Anselmo and a bunch of other people were there as celebrity signers and things. But this is really such a perfect match of all these things: geek culture, metalheads, tattooing, just the fan experiences of getting everybody together in the same place just for the brotherhood of metal, which is incredible.
Yeah, heck yeah, man, I love it.
For real. Thank you so much right off the bat, man. Thank you. And let's just, I know we're going to pivot for a second and talk about the challenges of this year and the virtual con, which is this weekend. And we are very excited about it. Let's talk. These guests are insane. So besides, you already name checked a few of them, of course, Demmel and D. Randall Bly and things like that. But dude, Junior Ellefson, of course, Morgan, Brian Fair, Heidi and Carla from Butcher Babies, Tawny, Kitaen, legends.
Yeah.
Sarzo, I mentioned Sarzo, I'm going to mention him again. Gary Holt, Paige Hamilton, one of my personal heroes on guitar. Just incredible. So what a great array of people, certainly equal to any year you've had the con. So that's amazing right off the bat.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I really try to I try and get a good mix. You know what I mean? I have to, I'm old school because I'm old. So I have to have the old 80s hair metal guy. I got to have a guy or two from that because I love it, you know? So I reached out to Rudy, and Sarzo is the sweetest human being you've ever met, ever, period. Um, and then he, you know, he's talked to other guys. So the next con, I mean, I might even do a hair metal con with just all guys from the 80s, you know, because you know, he's already talking to his buddies. I mean, we're talking to like Ricky Rocket and Snake from Skid Row, and you know, and then Tawny hit me up. I mean, how cool is this, dude? I woke up just 4 or 5 mornings ago. I wake up to a text, this long text. Hey, you may not know me. I'm in the music industry a long time. I'm really good friends with Rudy Sarzo, and he actually recommended you that I do this. Signed, Tawny Kitaen. And I'm like, oh my God, if middle school Chris 51 could have woken up to that message with a Tawny Kitaen poster on his wall and stuff like that, he would have shit himself, you know? So that was pretty incredible. And then her and I now have become friends. I mean, that's one thing I do with these guys is I refuse to be looked at as like a promoter. I don't want to be a sleazy promoter just trying to make a buck off of these guys. I'm here to help them, and I'm here to just follow my passion of metal. And if I happen to make a couple bucks along the way so I can keep doing this, then great. If I don't, I'm gonna keep fucking doing this anyways, man, because I don't care, because I love metal, you know. So I don't go through agents and I don't email. I get these guys like cell phone numbers, and I'm like, this is the way I operate. Like, I'm old school. I'm a handshake guy, and I want to text you and be able to call you and explain this, and that's how we do it. And every single one of these people at this con does it the same way as me. And I think that's why we get along. We have this like brotherhood so much. And as you said before, that's what the metal community is. It's like a brotherhood or a sisterhood, you know. And if I can't do it this way, then I don't want to fucking do it. You know, I don't want to go through agents and they get this cut of their money and this and that. No, then just don't do it, you know? So it's a really special way that we do this, and we bond. And that's why, you know, every single guest from the other Headbangers cons, they all want to do this one too, because they know that Morgan and I and my wife and the way we operate, we're legit and we're straightforward and we're transparent, and we're going to treat them as best as we can. And we have their interest in mind, you know?
Awesome. And I'm sure every single person watching this just heard like the Coverdale "Here I Go Again" chorus in their head and saw the car and saw her face, because that's
Right, right.
the face that, you know, Helen of Troy was the face that launched 1,000 ships, and Tawny is the face that launched 1,000 little metalheads.
That's
And
right.
to keep it PC, but she's incredible. And yeah, man, I want to just for a second touch on the thing. It's very interesting, and I love your approach. Clearly there has been in the past, I think maybe the last 20 years, you've really seen the broad acceptance of tattoos in the workplace. Tattoo culture is now pop culture and everybody's thing. But there was definitely a period of time where it was stigmatized just as much or more so than metal, which is
Oh yeah.
crazy to me. But it's interesting now how these things are, you know, I don't want to say mainstreamed a little more, but just a little more accepting and a little more accepted. And, you know, you've had to kind of fight that fight on two fronts now.
Yeah, I have. I feel like my whole career I'm always trying to convince people that this is a normal thing, or this is something we do, you know. And it started out with, you know, when I created the show Epic Inc., you know, and I had to convince people that we actually don't just tattoo evil shit all day and you know, skulls and guns and stuff. There's geeks out there that don't do drugs, and we collect comic books and action figures, and we go to Comic Cons and we geek out, and there's a lot of us out there, you know. So I had to sell that idea to a TV network, and it took a lot of effort, you know. And then once that kind of got in the mainstream and A&E picked it up, and we had Epic Inc., and that kind of opened the floodgates, I think, for a lot of aspiring tattoo artists that are into just tattooing pop culture stuff. I think that really helped. And then Headbangers Con, same thing, you know. You know how it is to be a metalhead. We're used to being in the mosh pit, or when you're older like us, on the side of the mosh pit, you know. And guys, the girls are just cackling back there. I can't hear shit. But you know, we're used to, as metalheads, we like the live shit. You know, that's what makes us move and groove and stuff. And so to convince metalheads to try this new platform, like a Comic-Con style, where it was more subdued and you're just kind of hanging and talking with the rock stars and not really rocking out as much, except for maybe the nighttime concert. That was another feat, you know, to try and, you know, realize and have people understand what that was all about. And then that worked. And then now we're fucked again, you know, because of COVID. So now we're like, okay, well, remember how it kind of worked the one time? Well, now we're gonna do that again, but we're gonna completely change it up because we can't get together and we can't hang out anymore. And we can't watch panels and listen to Derek Riggs talk about his Iron Maiden art, or David Ellefson talk about forming Megadeth, or we can't do that now. So now what do? So now I'm having to convince these metalheads to try something else new again. And luckily, I think Headbangers Con has enough fan base now, and we have enough clout with, you know, these rock stars that are on our behalf are saying, this is legit. You guys got to do this, you know? So we have that luckily at our back now. And, but it still hasn't been easy to convince metalheads to just sit in their living room and talk to these guys and have your VIP experience virtually, you know? But in doing that, it's actually opened up a whole new thing now, which I think is really fucking cool. Is, you know, you pay for a VIP at a concert and you get 3 minutes. You're rushed in, you get a picture, you handshake, and you're rushed out. And that's all you get for the extra $100 or $200 or however much it is. Well, now you get a full hour session to hang out. You get your few minutes of I have the floor time. I'm going to ask my question or two that I've been dying to ask, you know, Gary Holt, what it's like to play with Slayer or whatever, or Rudy Sarzo, what Randy Rhoads was like, you know. I got my question or two, and then I get to hang out in that room, that virtual room, and I get to listen to everyone else's questions, and I get to be a part of that. And if I'm in Gary Holt's thing, you know, Gary Holt's going to be doing shots and playing riffs on his Exodus riffs on his guitar, you know, that kind of stuff. And I get to be a part of that for like an hour, you know, for less than it would cost for 2 minutes of a VIP meet and greet at a concert. You know, yes, I don't get to shake their hand, but I get to hear the stuff that I would only get to read in their autobiography or something like that, you know? So it's actually pretty cool what's come of this. And now these guys have started being like, well, shit, Gary Holt's going to do shots and play guitar, and I want to do that now, you know, and the other guys are kind of picking up on that. So actually, I think the next Headbangers Con, the next virtual one, until we can resume live events, we're going to do nothing but those kind of really unique experiences where everyone does their own individual thing, which I'm really excited about. And guys are already shooting me ideas of what they want to do. And of course, I'm like, yeah, fuck, do it all. That's great, you know?
That's amazing. And I got to say, just me as a fan, especially like, you know, obviously some of these artists like Heidi and Carla and Phil is all over YouTube, and these guys are great at social media. But some of these artists, either they're not very big on socials or they just don't do this kind of meet and greet thing often. Obviously, especially now, nobody can because there's no tours. But like Randy doesn't do a lot of social media or things like this. Tawny,
Yeah.
of course, Sarzo, of course, even though he's, you know, an ambassador for the whole history of heavy metal. Paige, I know, just started doing guitar lessons privately or online on Skype or Zoom, but like this is not something you would normally get to do, which is talk to these folks. So that
Yeah,
is just
absolutely.
an insane and awesome opportunity.
I myself love it. I'm hosting as many of these as I literally can, just so I can hear what they have to say. I want to ask my own questions. You know, I'd be there if I was a fan, and luckily I get to be the host of it and experience it all too. So I'm excited myself for this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds incredible. Obviously there were challenges, and I really appreciate you guys pivoting to the virtual con. Just personally, obviously there's been obviously a pivot in your whole other industry as well. Are there anything, you know, how are things doing for your tattoo business or just your brand in general without cons, without tattoo cons and things to go do that I know you're a part of?
You know, pretty good. I miss traveling a lot, you know, and I have most of my clientele I have formed through 20 years of traveling around the world and tattooing, you know, so it's hard, you know, when you have pieces that are unfinished out there. It's like a part of you isn't finished, this sleeve or this back piece or whatever. And I always have people from different cities and stuff. Hey, when are you coming back to, you know, this city or Chicago, or that's New York, or when you come back to Philly, you know, and it sucks not being able to accommodate those people and finish that artwork that feels unfinished, you know. So that aspect of it really blows. But other than that, it is kind of nice to stay at home and kind of reconnect. And I'm with my shop family. I'm with my kids more. I'm able to do a lot more like fine art, like oil paintings and stuff like that. And I'm able to do things like this, like plan a virtual Headbangers Con, and I'll be able to do more. You know, I'm hoping to do one of these every few months now, if this one goes well. So there's pros and cons with the pandemic and what it's caused and stuff. But as far as tattooing goes, I think it's actually busier as long as they don't shut us down again. They shut us down for 3 months before and it about killed us all, you know, but I think it's busier now because I think people are at home more and they're able to research more into tattooing, watch more tattoo shows, think about what they want, maybe draw their own art. You know, they just have more time on their hands to think about what tattoos they've always wanted. And it's not such a go hustle world out there for them. A lot of people are working from home now or homeschooling their kids and that kind of thing. So when they do get out, there's not a lot of options of things open anymore either. We don't even have restaurants open over here, you know? So the tattoo industry is booming. I mean, we are turning people away left and right, unfortunately, but it's pretty crazy, you know, which is a good thing.
That is a good problem to have, my friend, when
Yeah,
you're in a
yeah,
business. Too much demand
yeah,
is a good thing. As a marketing guy by trade, that's a great
yeah.
problem. Just a couple more for you, man. You've been terrific. I love the shop behind you and all the toys
Oh,
and stuff.
thanks.
Do you have a favorite collectible or type of collectible that you have in your to chase after?
Ah, I go through phases, you know. Right now, I'm in, as you can see here along the wall, I have all the old vintage, the rubber wrestlers from the '80s. I'm a completist, so I have to complete that set, which drives my wife crazy because it is expensive. Um, I have a pretty massive, I have the original Star Wars figures, like mint in package. I got 77 figures at my house, which was basically my 401k because I'm a tattoo artist and I can't save money worth of shit. Um, I like the vintage stuff, you know, vintage Star Wars, vintage wrestling. I have a huge vintage Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle collection. And then the Simpsons, that's my thing. I'm going to be opening a Simpsons museum one of these years here. I have a massive Simpsons collection, probably over 10,000 pieces, which one day I'll have on display and everything. So yeah, I love all that shit, man. And then I collect all the heavy metal stuff, autographed guitars and record covers, and it's nonstop. It's ridiculous. It's an addiction, but luckily it's the only one I have, you know, so that's good.
Right. I knew you were going to bond with Benante over The Simpsons because that's his jam.
Oh, dude, yeah. He when I first met him at a Comic-Con, he actually came up. Uh, he came into, I forget which Comic-Con it was. He came up with one of the promoters from the Comic-Con, and the promoter was like, "Hey, Chris, I got someone here who wants to meet you. He likes your TV show because he's a big pop culture geek fan." And I turn around, I'm like, "Yeah, who?" And I was like, "Holy shit, that's Charlie from Anthrax." I was like, "Oh my god." And he came to meet me, which was pretty damn impressive. And I was like a little starstruck girl, you know, and he said, you know, I would like to get a tattoo from you one day. I've seen what you can do on TV and I would like to. And I'm a big Simpsons fan. I'm like, dude, let's do it as soon as I'm done with this guy, right? I had a guy laying on the table bleeding. I'm like, as soon as he's done, let's do it. He's like, really? I'm like, fuck yeah, man. And, you know, in my mind, I'm like, that's Charlie Benante from the Big Four. I grew up. Among the Living was one of my staples. You know, I'm like, I will find a way to tattoo Charlie. And I did that night, and we immediately bonded over Simpsons. I think I redid an old Krusty the Clown he had. And I was so nervous. I redid the whole tattoo, and I forgot to color in the red nose on Krusty. And Charlie texted me later. He's like, bro, you forgot the nose. I was like, fuck, man. You know, I guess I wasn't thinking straight because I'm sitting here tattooing one of the most legendary drummers of all time. So, I mean, I think I got a hall pass on that one, you know. But yeah, and since I've tattooed Beatles on him, other Simpsons. I designed a Homer with some drumsticks for him and that kind of stuff. So it's pretty cool, man. I get to tattoo some fun stuff on him.
That's amazing, dude. Amazing. And just for a last question, since it's December and this year could not end fast enough for me personally, but any thoughts on the music of 2020? Any cool albums you're digging or stuff you're looking forward to for next year?
Really looking forward to the new Megadeth. That's for sure. That's my number one. I'm a huge Megadeth's my favorite. So I'm really, really looking forward to that one above everything else. But it's kind of weird because when I connect with all these guys, you feel a personal attachment to it, and it makes the music seem so much more meaningful than it even already is, which is hard to believe. But so anytime these guys come out with a new record, whether it's like Morgan's solo record, Morgan called me up the other night and played that for me because I was bitching. I messaged him. I was like, "Why the fuck, dude? We own a convention together, and I haven't heard your new record, and it gets released in like 5 days." I'm like, "What the hell? I shouldn't even have to ask." So he called me up and he's like, "Dude, I'm so sorry, bro. I've been so busy. Here, I'm gonna play it for you right now." And he played it for me, and we were almost like in tears because it's really sentimental to him. So it's that takes on a whole new meaning when these guys, and all these fans will know these guys personally, hanging out with them for an hour. I mean, you hang out with Gary Holt for an hour and you hear these stories and you do shots with him. The next Exodus record or Slayer or whoever is going to be that much more meaningful to you when you know this guy, and you know how he responded to your questions, and you feel his passion and his sincerity and that sort of thing. So I really think all music takes on new meaning when you know the musicians. So
Badass, man. What a great final thought there. I will also say new Exodus next year, maybe a new Anthrax, probably not till the year after. New Megadeth, of course. New Vio-Lence, since Demmel is going to be there.
Yeah.
Everybody go get that Morgan Rose EP. I think it was overdue for him to have a solo record. Sevendust new album is out there, of course. Chris 51, man, it's just been a pleasure and an honor chatting with you. I love meeting anybody that's got like the same nerdgasm stuff that I nerd out on all the time, and really appreciate you, man. Good luck with the Headbangers Con. I hope for the day when it comes back in person, we will be there with you in person. We'll hang out and do some shots ourselves and talk about thrash metal.
My pleasure, man. Appreciate it, man.